I'm going to put some overheads up behind me, so you've got something to look at besides looking at me, and I'll talk at you a little bit. And following that, we'll leave it open for questions. And I've got a very experienced board of people here to respond to questions for you. Is that right, John? Lodge for the invitation to speak tonight. It's a privilege for me to talk about it. I'm quite passionate about the Royal Arch chapter and what it means to those of us who are in it, and we'll hear a little bit more about that as we go on. To many, the chapter is considered to be the completion of the third degree. The long-lost genuine secrets of a Master Mason are discovered in the chapter. So for those who are seeking, there's an answer to that search within the chapter. But it is a lot more than that. The chapter consists of two ceremonies. The first we call the Excellent Master Mason ceremony, and what you saw there with the veils and the video, there's some similarity to that ceremony. And it's a part of the journey that we're taking. We notice they mention journey a lot in the video. And the Holy Royal Arch is very much a journey. It's a journey from Babylon to Jerusalem, and it's a journey of learning along the way. And so, having completed the Excellent Master Mason degree, then a separate ceremony, people will complete their exaltation and become a companion of the Holy Royal Arch. It's mentioned in the video that the constitution of both the craft, the mark and the chapter all relate that those 5 degrees are part of it. The end apprentice, the fellow craft, the Master Mason, the Mark Master Mason, and the companion of the Holy Royal Arch. And it also mentions about the unity badge, that those who are in it, in all 3, actually receive that badge, and it's presented like it was tonight in the lodge here by another member of the lodge who is in all of the 3 orders. So it's quite an achievement to do that, but it tends to round out the things that you learn in the craft and take them to the next step. And just as much as the mark advances your knowledge, based on the building of King Solomon's temple, the chapter takes you to the commencement of the building of the second temple. So it's very much part of what happens with it. Now, I'm going to give you a little bit on the story that's in the Bible, that is very much the story that the chapter is based on. And you'll probably find, for those of you who are more theological students than I am, what's in the Bible varies a little bit to what's in our ritual, because those who wrote the ritual took the story and, like all good dramatists, they modified it to enhance the story as opposed to telling what was the original truth that they were to. So the craft ritual, as we all know, is based around the building of the first temple, King Solomon's temple. And that was about 950 years BCE. It's an allegory of building a man's character by pointing out moral lessons throughout the 3 degrees. The Royal Arch chapter takes its ritual from the building of the second temple, or rather preparing for the construction of the second temple. So we need to know a little bit about the history, and particularly the history of Jerusalem. And on the map there, you see Babylon and Jerusalem marked as they were at the time. There's quite a distance between them, and the people travel from one to another. When all this occurred, there was a period of sort of rapid rise and decline of kings and states that went along with them. And some of the kings that were around at that time were pretty hard sort of individuals, and it was very much about expanding their empire. Assyria was conquered by the Babylonians, and that was about 600 BCE. And under their king, Nebuchadnezzar, It's one of the last things that you do learn in the chapter is how to pronounce wonderful names like Nebuchadnezzar and Zerubbabel. They invaded Judah. They destroyed the city and the temple, and they carried away the Jews as captives. They also took, as we know, the two great pillars that were at the front of King Solomon's temple and the holy vessels that were stored in them. And they took them to Babylon. Thus, King Solomon's temple was destroyed about 400 years after it was completed. And the Jews remained in captivity in Babylon for about 70 years. The Babylonians were eventually overthrown by the Persians under their king, Cyrus. And Cyrus was a really enlightened king for his time. And there's a great deal of learning in the chapter from Cyrus and his actions and things that we learn about ourselves when we reflect on the actions of Cyrus. Quite an amazing man, and if you get the opportunity to read anything on Cyrus the Great, have a look at it. Absolutely incredible man. So he considered it better to bind the states that he conquered to himself, not by ruling over them, but allowing them to self-rule. Of course, he owned them, so he still took his taxes out of it, and he built them as part of his empire. But he also gave people in them freedom of custom and freedom of religion, so they could maintain their belief systems. And this was a very powerful thing to use. I'm not sure whether he was a very sneaky, cagey man or he was just a really fantastic person. I guess we don't really have enough in history to look at that. Cyrus, when he took over, he issued a proclamation that gave the Jews permission to go back to Jerusalem, which was a huge thing for them, and permitted them to go back and rebuild the temple that had been destroyed. At the same time, he gave them back most of the sacred vessels that had been retrieved, that had been stolen originally by the Babylonians. And he appointed Zerubbabel to be governor over the land of Judea. Zerubbabel came from a line of princes, so he was in fact an ideal person to put in charge. He came from the house of David and was just a natural choice for the position. He was joined with Haggai the prophet and Jeshua, the son of the high priest, and they, as his co-leaders, joined him in the return to Jerusalem. Now, I'm sure someone's going to correct me on that because that's not the story as we use it. Historically, it didn't quite work out that way. But for the purposes of how we use the story for our learnings within the Holy Royal Arch chapter, it's very much how it fits. So, it's the events around the return of the Jews to Jerusalem and the preparations for building or rebuilding the temple that the chapter is based. It's in some ways similar to craft ritual, where it's building a temple, and it's not necessarily with the completion of the temple. And it's during the preparation of the ground for the second temple that the long-lost genuine secrets of the Master Mason are recovered. And that is a key part of what we learn when we learn the chapter. So, the principles. As you'll probably be aware after introductions and seeing in the lodge room tonight, the chapter is led by three principles. And John did mention, for the sake of simplicity, that the second principle is roughly equivalent to a senior warden in Craft Lodge. He is in fact a slightly higher rank because he is installed rather than invested. And the three principals run the lodge as a triumvirate. And you can see they're quite colourful in their robes, and the colours of those robes have deep symbolic meaning for the members of the chapter. The other four officers in the chapter can be quite different to the craft. We have three who sit in a position just in front of where the scene wood sits in the craft lodge that we call sojourners. And if you're in an English constitution chapter, they're called sojourners. I'm sure we're pronouncing it correctly, but who knows? And the sojourners are they're the men who are making the trip from Babylon to Jerusalem, seeking to be qualified to work on the rebuilding of the temple. And it's part of their journey that forms very much a part of the chapter story. We also have three people that we call guardians. And the guardians also have the crimson, purple and blue. They were a style with those colours on. And you would have seen in the video when they were peeking through the veils, they were guardians, and they were guarding those particular veils. And it's part of qualifying to be able to work on the temple and obtaining the secrets to do that. When we first did this ceremony, we actually used to use the first, second and third degree secrets as part of the demonstration. Because we videoed it, we can't really put anything on the video that might become public. And if that happens, then I would be thrown out of Freemasonry, and my wife would not know what to do with me being at home all the time, so that would be and these guardians actually demand proofs as they go through. In the chapter, our secretary is called Scribe Ezra, and our inner guard is called Scribe Nehemiah. And these are two very senior positions in the chapter, and they have high levels of responsibility in the ceremony. And in fact, when it comes to the Grand Chapter team, same thing, they're very senior ranks within the chapter. Okay. Our Tyler, outside we call the janitor. And I'm hoping there'll be a question on why he's called the janitor later on, because I know our past friends of other volunteers just gagging to answer that one. So if Greg's giving me no smile, he knows the answer. It's fantastic. Okay, the regalia. You would have seen the regalia in the lodge room tonight, and there was a little bit of variation in terms of the regalia that we wore. Some of us wear these very smart waiters' jackets. They're quite nice. If you happen to be in the Grand Chapter team, then you're required to wear one of these. Anyone else in the chapter can elect to wear one if they wish. Otherwise, it's normal dinner suit. You'll see we also wear a sash that goes left to right, hands on that side because we don't have a sword on. Our apron is quite colourful and it's quite nice. We wear a jewel at the order, and you will have seen the jewels that we wore in there. The variations occur for rank according to the colour on your apron. So when you join the chapter, you become a companion, and the colours on your apron is white. When you become a principal of the chapter, that changes to a crimson colour. And if you end up with grand rank, then you end up with the tricolour on your regalia. Okay, the grand team carries out all of the installations throughout Victoria, all of the consecrations, reconsecrations, return of warrant, special presentations, and it's all done by the one grand team. We don't operate with a couple of teams, so in effect, it's hard to get a day off or a write-off in the chapter grand team, but it's obviously smaller. There's not as many chapters as there are craft lodges, so there's not as many to cover. But like all grand teams, there's a camaraderie there. Quick show of hands around there. How many people have been in the grand team of any colour? Excellent. And I would suggest that probably everyone in the room who's been in the grand team has had an enlightening experience. you get very close to people that you travel around with and you work with. You build great friendships for life in lots of cases. And the Grand Chapter team is no different. Probably the culture of the Grand Chapter team is a little different to the culture in a MARC team or in a craft team. We all have our different ways of going about it. I think a little more relaxed in a Grand Chapter team, and a lot of the formalities that Sudarshan's really familiar with at the moment, because he's in the current Grand Craft team, not quite so much in the Grand Chapter team. I know when I first went into the Grand Chapter team, the second Grand Principal and the third Grand Principal were Max and John. Of course, I was a very respectful young man and wanted to call them Sir, and after they slapped me around several times, and instead of me driving people around, Max used to pick me up and drive me around. So it's a very more relaxed kind of way in which we kind of treat them. Within the chapter room, everybody was acknowledged and given their correct rank, and that was a suitable thing. When we came out of the chapter room, we were all first names and very friendly, and I had a great year. I was only going to do one, wasn't I, doing?
You were only going to do one. 5 times later, you still.
Yeah, well, I thought I never asked me that. But anyway, that's another story. So those of you who are in the chapter and haven't been in the Grand Chapter team, have a go. It's a fantastic experience. And if you're not in the chapter yet, join the chapter so you get a chance to be in the Grand Chapter team. They're huge fun, they really are. This is a picture that shows the layout of the whole Royal Arch Chapter. So I'm standing in the great area all the time. And you'll notice that there's quite a few banners, there's a bit of colouring and quite a few things there. The altar in the middle, the white altar, is a double cube, and it has various initials and markings on it. All have meaning, and some of those are quite obvious meanings if you're in the craft, which we love. Part of that is in honour of the three Grand Masters that were involved in the building of King Solomon's Temple. There are candles around the altar, and you'll notice they're set up in triangular forms, and they're interlaced triangles. And this is a very ancient and symbolic arrangement, considered to be great significance. Along the pavement, there are 2 rows of ensigns, and these represent the 12 tribes of Israel. And at the end of the room, behind where the principals sit, the banners up there, the banners are you probably can't really see them from here, of an ox, a man, a lion, and an eagle, and they represent the 4 divisions of the Israeli army at the time. I don't think it represents the same. And the central banner has the triple Tor sign for the chapter, which is on the far right hand corner of the slide. The triple Tor is within a triangle surrounded by a circle, and relates greatly to the teachings of the degree, and points out that it's very much devoted to the development of your inner self. And I guess the quest for improving is an honourable thing. We make a promise to people who join Freemasonry that we'll take good men and make them better. And we do lots of things in Freemasonry to do that. We mentor people, we provide training programs for them, we assist them through their learnings. And the chapter is one of those parts of Freemasonry that actually does make good memory. It's probably the most colourful of the 5 degrees, well, without a doubt it is. And as I alluded to earlier, to be exalted into the chapter it's an unforgettable experience. And it's one that you put up there with the day you got married or the first child born, all that. Okay. This is, it's actually a grand chapter ceremony. This was at a grand convocation, which is like a quarterly communication, when the grand chapter comes out and communicates to the membership. It's an incredibly colourful ceremony. You'll notice the pavement there is quite different to the normal pavement in the Craft Lodge, and that is the actual formal chapter pavement, and that has symbolism as well. In different jurisdictions, they actually do that in different ways. It's quite interesting when you go to New South Wales. But it forms very much a part of the story of the chapter. I won't spoil it. If you decide that you would like to join the Holy Royal Arch, and I would encourage you to do so, then right here in this very building, you have the West Wimmera chapter. Who would be delighted to have any one of you join the chapter. Now, some of you might have been in the chapter years ago and have let your membership lapse and might now be excited to rejoin. I'm sure you'll be made very welcome. Or some of you might be at a point in your Masonic career where you decide, that's the next step for me. And in that case, the man to talk to is writing companion John Webster, past Grand Jesuit, scribe of the West Wimmera chapter. Does everyone know you, John? I think so. You think so? Sometimes I do. West Wimmera meets here on the second. Have I got it right? Second Thursday every month? Yeah. Good. Okay. If anyone here tonight is particularly interested, they would like to join, then John will more than happily arrange a proposer and seconder for you to join. Okay. I like that photo. That's John presenting his dad. He's 60 years old. And I think Wolf would have loved to have been
He was very disappointed that he found out when he found out that his eye appointment and this was on the same night.
Yeah. But,
his health come first.
Yep. I think I mentioned earlier, the mark is a friendly degree, and I think for those of you who are in the mark will certainly concur with that. But you're made very welcome and part of the whole culture of the mark group without friendliness. I must admit, I'll stand to be corrected, but I think the chapter is the friendlier group. Bill got that.
Bill is.
Mine disagree with it. But it is more relaxed. So look, the pomp and splendour of the Grand Chapter ceremonies is amazing. It's quite incredible. The ceremonies within your chapter are particularly beautiful. But as I said before, we are a little more relaxed in the chapter than what we are in the craft. It's considered to be a little bit more esoteric, and it has deeper meaning. It has a greater impact of spirituality. And I say spirituality not necessarily to say in a formal religious sense, but it actually gets ourselves to explore our own spirituality and what that means to us in the context of our lives. And I think that's a really important aspect of it. To be honest, the chapter has been probably my most enjoyable part of my Freemasonry. I know when I first joined the chapter, I just finished my first year as a master in the craft, and one of the members of our masters group said, why don't we all join the chapter and we'll be stewards together and we can muck around and have a great time. So we did. I think some of us might be stewards for 10 minutes, 15 minutes or something like that. But it was wonderful. The camaraderie was amazing, the welcome was amazing, and it's continued. And I guess I'm passionate about it, as we all have passions about various aspects of our amazing work. I think it's the friendships at the end of the day. I think it's the personal relationships that's really important. And I've gained a great deal of fantastic friends about my time in the chapter. We'd extend to you, if you want to come and have a look and not quite sure about joining the chapter, I'm sure that John and the team at Wimmera would welcome you to come along to one of their festive boards, meet the guys, have a chat with them, make sure you're comfy with them before you sign anything on a dotted line, and I'm sure John will make you welcome. So just that. So if you are interested, I encourage you to speak to somebody about it. John obviously is there, but if you know someone else in the chapter you'd rather have a chat with, by all means do it. They'll be more than happy to share their experience. That's all I really wanted to say tonight. But I did promise that if anyone had any questions, that we as a group would do our best to endeavour to answer them. Or if we can't answer them, we'll let you know that we can't answer them. Sometimes we can't answer them because we don't know. Sometimes we can't answer them because we do know and we're not permitted to share. But we're happy. So if anyone has a question, please ask away.
Well, when was the toilet called the janitor?
Very good question. Thank you for asking.
I just thought of that off the top of my head.
Never heard that before. Greg, would you like to?
Well, I'll give it my best shot because giving it some thought, I think there's not a lot of difference. Their duties are similar. The difference is in the name.
Yep.
And I was sitting here and I took the view, watching the presentation, that I was not in the chapter. And it raised some questions when you even join the craft. How much will it cost? How often do I meet? And you had up on the screen there before referring to writing about a companion, John, which answered the question about where you meet, which is here. But there's other questions regarding the cost, as I said, and those came back. So they're questions that can be answered. I'm sure the craft mates and sitting here are thinking the same thing.
Excellent. That sounds good. John, what are your dues?
Dues.
Yeah.
Currently, we're paid the start of July, which is the start of the fiscal year, and currently they're 135, and as of the 1st of July this year they'll go 150 per annum.
And that includes your green chapter.
That's it.
Excellent. And you meet every second month?
Every other month.
Even months. Yep. And one of those meetings is an installation,
Which is normally October.
All that information, by the way, is in the packs that we hand out usually. Just the one on the janitor, it's not as we know a janitor who's the man who cleans up. A janitor is actually a specific role in building. And it's a historic one, so it's a very old role. And that's why we've kept that name. But maybe we've also kept it out of a perverse reason to confuse people.
Exactly.
I would like everyone to be able to go home tonight and be able to say to your wife, I heard about a man who wants a rubber ball tonight. So that's a nice.
What's the minimum funds for joining the chapter? I mean, you've got members who are involved in chairs and also this.
Minimum required to join the chapter is you must be a master mason. It used to be you had to be a master mason for a period of 6 months standing. Now you can become a master mason one night and join the chapter. We changed that sometime ago. Obviously, you've got to have $135 for fees. That's really kind. There is regalia involved. I had a chat with John before. Some people like to buy or new regalia. And some people are happy to use regalia that someone else has had. So the chapter here can accommodate you either way. If you want to buy your own regalia, it's through the usual places, Lilies, Blashton's, those sort of suppliers. Sonic Supplies, is that one? Have I got that right? Yeah, I think they tend to be the cheap.
There's a good chap over in Denali by the name of John Hyde.
There's John Hyde at Denali.
The other, we've got plenty of aprons, but the sashes are a little bit on the smaller side, so if you have a larger statue, you might have to require a larger sash.
I always found it's a bit like the army. If you're a big bloke, they go to a little sash, and if you're a little bloke, you got one hand. No, when I joined the army, I think for the first 6 weeks I didn't see a thing because I had a pin head and the hat sat down and I couldn't see where I was going. But that was the way
I thought there was something dodgy about it.
There's a lot dodgy about me and that'll be explored.
Being senior service, I can recognise.
Ah, that's right. Okay. Fair enough. Excellent. Did we have any more questions? In that case, can I just say, yep.
Michael might like to enlighten the brethren, as you would have seen on the map, it's a dang long way from Babylon to Jerusalem. What did you take on? You had a water bottle with you when you came that one.
I was told we 2 water bottles and make sure they were full. But enough to do it again.
And it's all done on foot.